So cloud is not cheap. Let me put it that way. Yeah. So I think a lot of you should know how to use the cloud, right? Because it's like an unlimited tap. If you leave the tap
Even
on.
a lot of people also complain that whenever you have, like, let's say, let's put a figure like 100 cloud, you have like this 100, and overall that effectively you're using only maybe 40 or 30% or maybe
Exactly.
50% of the capacity best.
Exactly.
So 50% is not used. So
Correct. So that's exactly the point. I was coming to that. That a lot of people have implemented it, but they don't know how to scale on the cloud, right? So when you're starting a small workload, it makes sense, right? You're able to do a quick POC. It's always running. If you have to provision something, you don't need to go through the change control.
Correct.
You don't need to go through the procurement cycle, and it takes 3 months for a server to come or a device to come. So obviously, it's very fast, right? But you should know how to control that agility, right? If you don't have controls, you can just go and burn money in like if not days, even hours, right? So I think having a very fundamentally strong cloud team in house, a lot of companies, what they do is they outsource it, right? Give it to a vendor, and then you don't have a clue what they're doing, and then before you know that, the bills are really running high, because all these vendors have also incentives to.
Correct.
The bigger the bills, the bigger the payouts, right? So I think the fundamental for being a cloud native company, which is what most of the startups are today, is to understand how cloud operates, right? So for example, when we run our workloads, all the instances are designed in a way that when the work is done, they shut down automatically. They scale down. And when the workload increases, they start scaling up. So how do you do all of that requires a deep understanding of how cloud tech works. And just outsourcing this problem to a vendor without really understanding the fundamentals is where the gap is, number one. Number two is not everything is designed for cloud, right?
That's
For
an
example,
important
if I have a monolith app, my architecture does not support cloud. So look at it like this. I have an application that's running the entire sales to booking to sales, right, for me, and say operations as well. And if I have to scale certain components of my ERP, say if it's Diwali season, right? Now Diwali season, if I have to, my booking increases. So my number of trucks possibly would be the same. I might add a little more capacity, because we always, build the supply chain with capacity to handle the peaks, right? So there is always 15-20% buffer, and we engage market vehicles when there is really excess peak, Diwali, some big billion day sale or something like that, right? So now in this situation, if it's a monolith environment, if you just want to increase your booking piece, because a lot of people who are really putting data or making bookings, you have to scale up the whole application.
Okay.
You can't really scale that component.
Correct.
Because it's a monolith system. It just goes up together and comes down together. When you look at a microservices architecture, which is really designed for the cloud, which is how an Amazon.com works or a Netflix works, you've not seen a Netflix go down, but you still see new features.
Correct.
So there's no magic happening, right? It's working in an architecture that supports it, that's designed for the cloud. So if your application is not really designed for it, and you're just moving it for the sake of it, again, you might want to move it because of the business continuity.
Correct.
Because your hardware is really aging, and you feel that it's better there. I'm willing to spend more for the to reduce my downtime. That's a different story. So you are consciously making that decision that I'm ready to spend more, right? But the other thought is that if I'm not, my architecture is not designed like that, then you'll end up spending more money on the cloud.
Correct. Important.